This is my speech on the first conference of Globalization of Kiswahili that took place on June 7th, 2020. Greetings to everyone. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of their busy schedule to attend this conference. I can see the number of our audience growing, and that is encouraging. I want to thank Honorable Daniel Juma of Global Peace Foundation for accepting to moderate this conference. I also want to thank all volunteers that have worked tirelessly to make this possible. Thank you, and may God bless each one of you. Our supporters are watching from all parts of the world, and right now it is midday in Washington, D.C. in the United States. It is nighttime in Nairobi, Kenya, and it is morning on a Monday in Seoul, South Korea. The theme of today's conference is Globalization of Kiswahili language. But before we talk Kiswahili to the world, please allow me to look at the situation back home. As I do this, I will share with you a little bit of my story. My name is Pius Odhiambo. I am a data engineer by profession, and I currently study and work in Washington, D.C. in the United States. It is here that around 5 months ago, we started teaching Kiswahili to children and the youth at our local church. I grew up in a village that if you are hard speaking Kiswahili, you'll be profiled as a conman. I went to a primary school that was very understaffed, and the Kiswahili lessons were replaced with mathematics lessons. Facilities were virtually not there. I sat under a tree on a stone to learn mathematics, and every Friday, students would carry cow dung to maintain the classroom floors. One would be punished for not carrying a cow dung, even if the cow refused to produce the dung the previous night. It was therefore the duty of the students to make sure that the cows are well fed every Thursday evening to produce enough dung so that you are not in trouble at school. As a class, we excelled in mathematics but did very poorly in Kiswahili. This costed my classmates and I admission to top provincial and national schools. I ended up in a day school in my neighborhood. I'm not trying to say that day schools are not good schools, but after being in the village throughout my life, I wanted to join a top boarding school. The poor performance in Kiswahili in primary school spilled over to high school. I performed poorly in Kiswahili throughout my high school, except in the national exams, where I had some little improvement. The dismal performance in Kiswahili at the final exams in high school again costed me an opportunity to qualify for the so-called high-flying courses. I wanted to do either electrical engineering or computer science, but I ended up doing teaching in mathematics and physics at Kenyatta University. I'm not trying to say that teaching in mathematics and physics is a bad profession, but I'm just trying to share with you my thinking as at that time. My story represents the story of many children from schools in rural Kenya where Kiswahili is not popular. There are incidences where Kiswahili has made very bright students miss scholarships from companies like Equity, Kenya Commercial Bank, among others. The cutoff points for some scholarships is 350 marks out of 500 marks. A student scores 320 marks at KCP in the other 4 subjects, but scores 20 marks in Kiswahili, making the student to get a total of 340 marks. This is below the cutoff points, and the student misses the scholarship. What about if this student could have scored 60 marks in Kiswahili? As you are aware, 60 marks is not a great score in these national examinations. It is because of this experience and several cases like this, whenever KCP results are out, that motivated me to start Kiswahili Tekelezi in Washington, D.C. At first, it was meant to be a mentorship vehicle for children from African immigrants diaspora, but later we expanded the mandate to address the pathetic situation at home through Adopt a School initiative, through Kiswahili Tekelezi local chapter in Kenya. After the COVID-19 pandemic is over, we intend to train children and the youth in USA to speak Kiswahili for 18 months. We will then bring them for 1 month vacation to Kenya, where they will spend 2 weeks in a boot camp doing projects in Kiswahili, as well as learning about Kenyan culture as well as the government structure. The other 2 weeks, they will visit tourist attraction sites in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Part of their tours will include visiting the adopted schools by the Kenyan counterparts and giving further support to teaching of Kiswahili in those schools. If the Kenyan case works out, then we intend to roll it out to all countries in diaspora where Kenya is represented. One day, while mobilizing resources for my local primary school, a man in black suit, tall with a cigarette on his hand, mobilized workers at the Kenya Post Authority in Mombasa, where he worked, and did a fundraising that partially brought an end to carrying of cow dung in my school and 2 more schools in the neighborhood. His name was Mr. Peter Joe. This was in the mid-1980s. I never interacted with Mr. Peter to date, but 35 years later, I can still remember the act of kindness he did to his community, not because he was a millionaire, but because he was a great mobilizer. In high school, 2 Kiswahili teachers were posted to my school. Their names are Mr. Shikanda and Mrs. Kadenge. Their arrival at my high school marked the beginning of teaching Kiswahili, marked the beginning of the end of teaching Kiswahili in English. I remember Mr. Shikanda, when on duty, will conduct the morning assembly in pure Kiswahili, and then the boys would clap. I did not understand anything. Later, after the assembly, I would ask my student neighbor to translate for me what Mr. Shikanda talked about, and he politely told me he is in the same situation like me, and so are most of the boys in the school. Later, they made an impact in the school, and today as I speak, one of their students, Mr. Dennis Ndeke, who went through the rural schools throughout his entire life and was one of Mr. Shikanda's students, is a great Kiswahili teacher in the village. I salute Mr. Shikanda and Mrs. Kadenge wherever they are. At the university, I met a very tall boy. He has just graduated from Kenyatta University with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, and he has just been hired by the university as a junior administrator and posted to the African Virtual University, which was a World Bank project at the Kenyatta University. I would admire how he was managing the very difficult university students who are very hungry for computer knowledge. At that time, the demand was greater than supply, and having an email address would put you in a class of your own. I still remember my first email address in the summer of 1998. That is podhiambo@avu.org. I learned a lot from his administrative skills as an intern under him. Today, this junior administrator by then is one of the topmost human resources practitioners in Africa. His name is Dr. Julius Olayo. He had the option of working with multinational companies, but he has decided to work with the Teacher Service Commission to drive change and innovation in the management of teachers in the country. Another man who has shaped my thinking is Mr. Daniel Juma of Global Peace Foundation. He introduced me to Samundong of South Korea, a model of development that has been widely used in South Korea, and I'm happy to inform everybody that Kiswahili Tekelezi will adopt the same approach in driving change to teaching of Kiswahili in the rural schools in Kenya. I've attached the link to Samundong of Southern Korea here for your review. Before I left Kenya for the United States, I met 2 great teachers. One was senior principal and another one was Kiswahili teacher. They are both here listening. I would carefully study them, how they are conducting their duties in the school. I joined the school when it had over 1,200 students, and before Mr. Yuya joined the school, the principal's average turnout in a period of 10 years was very short. But Mr. Yuya stayed in the school for over 10 years, and the academic performance of the school was at its peak during his tenure. Finally, Mr. Hendera is always the master of ceremony in the school functions. When boys see Mr. Hendera is in the program as a master of ceremony, they would rise to the venue and occupy the front seats. As the convener of this meeting, or as the convener of this conference, I had the option of talking about the great people that I've met overseas. but I decided to use examples of local talents that has shaped my thinking. Why? Because I believe most of the pressing problems we have locally, back at home, can get homegrown solutions. From today henceforth, I intend to hold a series of conferences on every first Sunday of the month for the next 1 year. The conference will give an opportunity to those heroes in the village with an innovative mind who do not have the opportunity to showcase their talents and innovations and their innovations to the whole world. One such are the unemployed graduates in our villages who have not got the opportunity to get employed. More details on this will follow later. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and that is my speech.